back in the studio, joined today by one of our favorite panelists, Chuck Voigt. Voigt?
Voigt.
Voigt. I always, Voigt. I'm going to remember that. Voigt. Okay, so you remember Chuck, right? We went to his house, his farm, over the summer, and he showed us everything he was growing. Now today, he brought in a few of those things that he harvested. Some of this stuff is actually really incredible. So he's going to walk us through all of it. Maybe we're going to taste a couple. Well, I will, not you. We're not there yet, tech-wise.
Taste-o-vision.
Taste-o-vision, yes. So tell us what you brought and kind of link it to what we saw earlier in the year.
Okay, well, in the show, you dubbed me the root guy.
The root guy, that's right. The root
and so
veggies
these
guy.
are all roots, not a tuber in sight. So when we were out there, we were shooting, and I was pointing at what looked kind of like bare ground, but they're little tiny little green seedlings.
Yes.
Just little cotyledons of some of these things. And so we had rutabagas and turnips and winter radishes, which I sort of fell in love with last year, and then we talked about sweet potatoes, but we'll save that for a little later. But okay, the thing that I told you at the time was that I thought I probably got the rutabagas and the gill feather turnips in a little late. Well, they did okay.
And this was August, right? First week of August?
Was August 10th, the day we shot it.
Okay.
And I probably should have gotten them in mid-July.
Okay.
And I said that at the time. And in retrospect, that's probably true because I got some nice big ones, but a lot of medium and smaller ones. This is the gill feather turnip. It's a cross between a turnip and a rutabaga. So it might fool you if you were growing just this in the garden because the foliage and everything looks more like a rutabaga because it has smooth foliage where the regular turnips we have that scratchy.
Yes.
Have that scratchy sort of thing, but a real mild, sweet flavor because we plant them in summer and grow them in the cool fall. You know, just sweet, juicy.
Not a lot of bite to it, huh? Just a smooth.
Just super smooth. If you like turnips, these are almost like a kohlrabi. Which is kind of my favorite in the.
And I like those raw or sautéed, maybe a little salt, a little butter.
Right. I've had these raw, and they're very good. You can slice them up and do the old crudité thing.
Yes, fancy.
Or any number of other things, and you can cook them. You could probably slice them and put some sort of a sauce on them and bake them or whatever. And then the rutabagas. The way we like to do those now is to slice them up into like French fry shapes, put them on a pan with a little oil, maybe a little salt, pepper, and choose the herb that you want them to taste like, but then brown them and turn them at least once. You do them at fairly high temperature, maybe 400, and so that caramelization for me sweetens them up and kind of cuts that. There's a hint of bitterness that can be in a rutabaga, and it really cuts that and makes it much more palatable for me. At least.
Gotcha.
But
now after you harvest these, how long will this be able to keep? How long will you be able to store this?
I think we just threw out some from last year that were in the crisper drawer all winter.
A year.
Up to a year.
Wow.
Barring something going horribly wrong, but
in good conditions. I mean, you can't just chuck them in the.
certainly they'll get you through till spring.
Okay.
I mean, that's why having these roots in the root cellar when you were like in Gunsmoke or whatever kept you from getting scurvy. Because they would keep through the whole of the winter. So.
Okay. Good.
Now with the winter radishes, I have the opposite to tell you because I think I probably got those in a little earlier than they needed to be. A little
earlier, okay.
Because I planted them the same time I planted these, just because it was ready and it was, when am I going to have this ready again? But in fact, I think I would probably delay these from the 1st of August to maybe the middle of August.
Okay. Now how did you arrive at that? So with these, it was the size. How did you arrive at these maybe being planted a little too early?
Well, the black sweet Spanish told me, the black round Spanish, round black Spanish, I'll get it right. This one did really well, but early on, about a third of them shot up to seed, which tells me that the day length was still a little too long.
Too long.
And they got the cue to flower.
Gotcha.
None of the other 4 kinds did, but it just kind of...
So they take that cue from our shortening days and cooler temperatures.
Right. So anyway, I think some of these probably got a little bigger than they would have needed to, because these aren't the biggest ones that I had by far of these.
Tell us a little bit about the varieties.
Okay, this is the round black Spanish.
This is really cool. I don't think I've ever seen
Has a very
this.
tough black skin on it.
But
so,
smooth.
But
smoothish.
Right.
Yeah.
But certainly a good keeper because of that. The skin kind of seals in whatever's going on. This is a small purple daikon.
Small.
Which did quite well. That has kind of a starburst purple inside, which is fun. And we've got a little one here that we'll cut to see that. This is China Rose, which I think also is white inside, but has that kind of a nice rosy red outer portion. And this is our favorite, the watermelon radish, which...
Yes. I've had this one before.
Right.
On the show.
We've done it on the show, and I've sent you a video that we did another time, and it's a wow moment when we cut those open. So the other thing I found out that I think also might have to do with them being in the ground too long was this is about maybe a quarter of the watermelon radishes split like this, and some of them were much more pronounced than this. I think they got big enough that we hit a dry spot, and then when we got better rains late in the season, they just expanded too fast and cracked open.
Kind of like how our tomatoes do on the vine when they get a lot of...
Tomato skins harden up when it's really dry, and then you get that influx of moisture, and pop they go.
Pop they go.
Yes.
But that's still edible, right? There's no harm, no foul there.
I think you just cut away that.
Isn't it neat how they can tell us stories, you know, while they were growing, of things that happened in the weather, things that happened environmentally?
Somebody happened by and took a little nibble there.
Little nibble there. That might be the... No, not the foxes. The foxes would definitely not do that.
Well...
Would they? Are your foxes vegetarian?
Not necessarily, but the kits will play with almost anything. They got into trouble with me because I had my sweet potatoes growing the plants up on a high shelf. They found a way to get up there, dug some of them out, and I might have said a bad word or two when they did that, because there's one I still don't know if I had it this year or I didn't have it this year.
And somebody maybe... Because
they dug it out, and we found a potato here and a potato there, and I put them back together, but it wasn't one that's real distinctive in how it grows. So let's do this and see if we can get a wow moment.
Let's see what we get here.
Since it's cracked, we will just go ahead.
See what we get.
Ooh, nice crunch.
I can see some color.
There it is.
Ta-da!
There it is.
That is so gorgeous. Even if you don't like it, you just got to like the look of it, right?
Yeah, and what I found with these winter radishes is, again, because it's in the cool, moist fall.
Now, do you normally, when you, do you cook with these, or do you eat these raw in a salad?
I certainly think you could, because, I mean, they're not that different from a turnip or a rutabaga or a kohlrabi for that matter.
That's so pretty. I love the inside of that. So yes, as you guys remember, I talked about battling rabbits all summer, and at Chuck's place, he had to, I wouldn't say battle, coexist with a family of foxes. Right.
The mother was there with 3 kits, and they're just the most playful things. They're kind of adorable, but when they're just destroying
not so adorable
things, anytime I would work up fresh soil, they'd be running up and down it like it was their track meet.
Oh, wow.
And
like you did it just for them.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks. Yeah. Why didn't you do that sooner? You know, and
save me the trouble.
And you'd speak harshly to them, and they just kind of do that head crook, that head crook thing.
Yeah, and they're so cute. I'm sure they were so adorable.
Yes, unfortunately they are. But the upside was that I didn't see a rabbit all season. And even the squirrel population is
We have
much
the
less.
opposite issue.
Because we had a big walnut year, and the walnuts are just lying there on the ground. They're not going up into trees by and large, which is another story. I kind of got carried away picking up black walnuts, and we'll see if I get through cracking all of them.
Well, you have to bring those the next time you come in.
Okay, we'll do a cracking. I'll bring my little anvil and we'll crack some of those. Let's see
now,
this one
what's
because
this guy?
This is the
purple dicot.
This is actually a small purple daikon.
An actual daikon. I said dicot.
Right. It's like the Asian radishes. They're usually big and white and about a foot long and 2 or 3 inches in diameter. And the Asian restaurants do wonderful things.
Is this going to be a surprise inside?
Well, hopefully.
Ooh.
It's not as much of a surprise, but you do get some color there.
That is pretty.
And so if you were doing your crudité platter with these, you could get pretty creative and have some slices of this. And
I like how you incorporate color into your veggies. This is fun.
Right. And there's the round black Spanish I know is white inside. I'm pretty sure that the China Rose is as well.
Now, flavor-wise, let's talk about the profile here. A lot of difference, subtle differences.
You know, I haven't done a side-by-side taste test. That's the first time I've tried to grow 5 varieties of winter radishes. So I know I like the watermelon, and I know I like one that looked a lot like this that I had on the show. And I bought it at a store here in town, and they had a different name on it, so I don't know if it was exactly the same thing, but it was a purple, looked like a purple daikon. And both of those are very mild, very sweet, very juicy.
Awesome.
And not overly radishy if you know.
Because it's got a unique sort of earthy, I can't quite think of the word.
And then there can be an underlying heat too that might be pleasant or might not, because they're fairly distant cousins of horseradish.
Okay.
Because that's the joke in Southwest Illinois. How do you make horseradish? Well, you take one horse and several radishes. But that's neither here nor there.
So now we get to your prized possessions. Well, I won't say prized, but you sent me a picture of you with this outrageous sweet potato, and
there it is.
What did you name it?
I don't believe I named it.
Oh,
it's just kind of
that's
a colossal. When it was fresh out of the ground, it was right at 7 pounds.
Wow.
It has shrunk up just a bit because you like to harden up the skins on sweet potatoes, so you let them.
I didn't know that.
You keep them warm for at least a couple of weeks. Let them lose some water. It tightens up the skins, and then they keep much better.
Okay, I did not know that.
And it also sort of changes the flavor profile. But this was an amazement to me because this 7-pounder, this 6-pounder, and these others were all growing on the same plant.
That plant was mighty strong.
And
can I hold one?
Just go for it.
It's like holding a newborn.
Yeah.
It's like holding a baby.
I have a picture of that as well that I didn't send you.
Wow. Now, this isn't one of those situations like with zucchini. If you let them get too big, it kind of compromises the flavor. Will this matter?
I don't think so, because this one and that one grew for the same amount of time.
Oh my gosh.
And all of them grew very quickly because from June to October is not that long.
No, it's not.
And
really. That's a monster.
I suppose if you were in like a tropical climate where they're more or less perennial,
yes,
they would probably toughen up over time and get woody. I've found that sometimes the smaller ones have more fiber in them than the larger ones, and my response to that is maybe there's only X number of fiber in a sweet potato, and if you expand that over a 7-pounder, you notice
there's only so much.
You notice it way less than if you're in a half-pounder.
Wow.
So anyway.
So you had good success this year.
It was amazing.
Would you rate the growing season for you? Because I've heard varied responses. So what was 2021 for you growing?
It was mostly very good because, well, it was very good with the things that I kept weeded.
There we go.
Because we talked about that at the time when we were there. You just get to that point in the season and
it was hot.
I tend to plant like I'm still 25. And then at some point, June, July, somewhere dawns on me that maybe that wasn't a wonderful idea.
This is going to come with a lot of work. But good. I'm glad you had a great harvest. I didn't. I didn't this year, and I think it was operator error. But I'm glad you had a great harvest.
Yeah, and even like some of the squash that got lost in the weeds, I had kept the rows fairly weed free, and so some of those surprised me a little bit in that I got there's one called Thelma Sanders sweet potato, which is basically a white acorn. I wasn't totally impressed with the flavor of the thing because I actually think it needs brown sugar or something because it doesn't have the flavor of like a butternut or a buttercup or some of the really tasty squash. But it put on a lot of squash, which lost in the weeds was a pretty good thing.
Yeah. All in all, not a bad year.
I don't know. Do you want to see the inside of a purple?
Let's do it.
This is.
Could you imagine peeling this guy? That would take all day.
Right. Where can I do this to damage it the least? Because I'm going to send this home with you.
Oh, I love my job.
Because when this is cooked,
ooh, pretty.
It's like India ink inside.
And it doesn't change when it's cooked, right? Like some of the green beans or some of the other vegetables that turn.
It changes. It gets darker.
Ooh, we're going to have fun with this.
It's if you're into phytonutrients, this is just anthocyanin packed.
I'm going to have to Google that, sir.
Yeah, because
I am but a mere host.
Your basic ones are like lots of carotene, because they're yellow, orange, those kinds of things. And so that one is just a
very
purple marvel. This one is Molokai purple, and that one was one that's just called purple. I had that one first and then got this one later.
Awesome.
In the past, we've been happier with the eating quality of the Molokai, but the productivity of this one was amazing. Plus, this one sent out some of those annoying things that go forever.
Yes.
And you're constantly cutting it and seeing that blue against the soil. And I was digging them the last 2 days, the day before Halloween and Halloween Day. And I had a 100-foot row and wanted to get it out in those 2 days because it was going to freeze that night.
Yes.
And it was really annoying to be slowed down having to chase those. But at the same time, I'm a miser, so I don't want to.
You have to get to the end of them, right? You must. You must get every one.
Or at least try.
Yes, at least try.
And so awesome. I'm not sure because next year my garden is going to be much smaller.
That's what everybody says every single fall.
I went out, I bought cattle panels to grow more vertical stuff. And I've got in my mind about a third of what I had planted this year.
Okay.
And I'm going to fit what I grow into that.
Well, we'll be there to...
Probably.
We'll be there to see how this goes, because everyone says they're going to downsize, but... Well,
and the goal being to have it so that I can weed the whole thing in a comfortable day, as opposed to having to decide between, do I save the vine crops? Do I save the sweet potatoes?
Yeah.
What do I do? And then, the fall garden will depend on, what comes out and where there's room. And hopefully it's less stress and strain and more planning and more of those kinds of things. But
time will tell. Well, thank you, Chuck, for bringing all this stuff in. Thanks for letting me taste and take home. We're definitely going to have fun with this tonight for dinner. So thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
You bet.
And now we're joined in the studio by Chris Enroth. Well, he's joining us by Skype, but he is here today to talk to us a little bit about a couple of things that are actually exact opposites, but cool topics nonetheless. So, Chris, welcome back to the show, and tell us a little bit about you and where we can find you.
Tinisha, thank you so much for having me here today. As you said, my name's Chris. I'm a horticulture educator with University of Illinois Extension. If people want to find me, you can search the interwebs for Good Growing, which is kind of the extension name that I write a blog and host a podcast with some colleagues. We even have some webinars out there. So just Google or Bing or whatever your search engine of choice, Good Growing, Chris Enroth, you'll find me.
And you'll find him there. Okay, so Chris, we had a viewer write in Robert Vaden wrote in, and this is a topic that we've been hearing a lot about lately. He says, I would like to see more on restoring natural landscapes using original native wildflowers, not cultivars. And he goes on to say that not all cultivars are bad, but some are certainly questionable whether or not they are beneficial to the area. And then he sent us a picture of his lawn that was used to be weed grass, European wheatgrass or bluegrass. He says it's now predominantly native plants. And now the remaining bluegrass lawn is now more sedge and wildflowers and violets and waterleaf. So this was his transition back to the more native looking lawns or yards. So if people are interested in doing this, maybe not their entire lawn, maybe a section of it, how do you get started with going from that manicured look? How do you get to something like this, Chris?
Well, Tanisha, I think you hit the nail right on the head right there when you say maybe not the whole yard, but a small section of the yard. I always recommend to folks if they want to transition out of, say, lawn and a traditional foundation planting, start small. Pick
Mm.
a spot in the yard, and because gardening is a massive experiment, you're going to fail, things are going to happen. That's just the way it works. And then from there, you can build that out based upon that plant palette that you choose. Now, in terms of cultivar versus non-cultivar. Again, very correct in that some cultivars, might not be that bad.
Mhm.
Actually, the Mount Cuba Center, they did research and they showed that purple coneflower, actually a cultivated variety known as fragrant angel, actually had more pollinator visits than the regular, just straight species of purple coneflower. So, saying all cultivars are good or bad, we can't really do that. The research has to back up those statements. So, you can I would say cultivars are the way to get certain folks on the native plant bandwagon, so to
Okay.
speak.
Now you can't
And
just
so,
stop mowing, right? There's actual work that has to be done here, right? Do you have to get that grass out of the lawn and then reintroduce those native plants?
there's certainly a couple different methods that you can go about this. Probably the easiest thing is to spray something like a broad spectrum herbicide like glyphosate that kill any green vegetation there. For my part in my yard, I actually practice more of like a deep mulching. I had a load of arborist wood chips delivered to my house, and I set about installing my landscaping beds, mostly just dumping mulch down, spreading it out about 6 inches thick and probably thicker in some spots to smother the grass and to kind of hold that space because I kind of operate on a little bit of a staggered timeline here. As budget allows, I buy plants. If I had the budget, oh, my yard would just be full of plants. Probably wouldn't know what to do with them all.
Now, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you were going to talk to us a little bit about some maintenance things because we're kind of in the down time of the year for us folks who like to be outside. Mower maintenance, keeping those blades sharp, keeping things ready to go for next year. What did you want to demonstrate, or what's the tip there for that today?
Well, I hope we are all done mowing our lawns for 2021. Fingers crossed. I mean, it's really cold out as we are
Yes.
recording this and talking right now. So, I hopefully we are all done. So, I wanted to show you. This is a mower blade that I've taken off of my push mower. And my push mower, it's an older mower. It's something that I'm comfortable taking apart and putting back together. And so this is something that is going to go person to person. Maybe not everyone's comfortable taking things apart like this. You can just as easily schedule a service appointment with your local small engine repair shop dealer, and they'll take care of this for you. But I want to talk about sharpening our mower blades. It's something that a lot of people don't do as often as they really should. Ideally, I'd say we want to have go into the mowing season with sharp blades, and then maybe in the middle of the season we should sharpen our blades then. But this is something that we can do at home. So here's my mower blade, and actually there is a kit that you can pick up from, say, a local hardware store, and that kit comes with a couple things. First is this grinding stone right here, and this would go into a drill that you put in your drill. And then this stone, you would then simply grind off any uneven edges of your blade that's right here. And then you can clean off any little nicks or cuts with this stone. But something I think people forget to do is this is a blade balance. Now, this might help to improve the health of your yard, but the big reason to balance your blade is that it helps your equipment. And so this actually is a little cone it sits on, and it shows, hey, how balanced is my blade? It's not very balanced. And so that means the equipment is going to have some wobble to it, which is hard on our mowers. And so there's material that I can take off of one side to help balance this blade a little bit. And I can use my grinding stone. You can use files when you do this. This little blade sharpener kit from a local hardware store. I mean, I think it was about $4 when I bought it a few years ago.
Oh, you
So
can't beat
it's
that. I have
it's
seen
pretty and it's good.
the blade that folks have used.
Mhm.
I have not seen the kit that you just brought on, so um, that's new for
Yes,
me. Interesting.
yes. So
And
yep,
I,
just these files here you can
yeah,
use.
that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Those work just as well. Sometimes I prefer using the file as opposed to the grinding stone.
So that is for people who just need to, well, you need to get out and sharpen your blades anyway, but if you're just feeling that tug of, wanting to be doing something close to gardening, I guess this is one of those
Mhm.
things when it's 25 degrees outside that we can do to make us feel like it's almost
Yes.
time, even though it's really
It's,
not. So, Chris,
it's
thank you
something
so
you can
much
do in
for
your
coming
garage.
on. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Really appreciate it, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you very much, Tanisha.
Mhm. And that is today's show. If you have any questions, please drop us a line on Facebook, or you can email us at yourgarden@gmail.com, and we'll see you next week. Good night.